Happy Tax Day, everybody. Y'all excited? Y'all happy about that? Huh, Tom Benson? Is your favorite day of the year?
Today
Tax Day?
Today was not a good day for the wallet. I'll tell you that.
No, really.
I had to pay. Plus, I went and filled up this evening. Gas went up another 12 cents.
Did you wait till the last minute to pay? Did you wait till today to actually file it?
Yeah.
Really? I was wondering how many people actually do that.
Well, it's much easier now because everybody e-files.
So you think a lot of people e-file? Because I did this months ago.
Oh, especially if you have to pay, yeah. If you know if you're gonna get a refund, you go early and get the cash.
Yes, this is true. Well, I've seen many a post today on Facebook and stuff about taxation is theft.
Well,
so, especially today.
On one hand, you're not happy about paying taxes, but you're just catching up with what you owe because you made the money during the year.
Yeah,
and you didn't deduct it properly.
Yeah, a lot of different angles we can talk about on tax day and why I'm becoming more and more of a fan of the fair tax. Believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do have some problems with it I could see coming in the future, but we'll talk about that in the next hour. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffe, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We're doing the show till 9 p.m. tonight, 7 to 9 p.m. if you're listening to the live show on WFLA. Make sure if you miss any of the show, you can catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. We are on Facebook Live as well. So just search Beyond Reason Radio on Facebook, like that page, or you can send me a friend request personally. Send a friend request to Michael Yaffe. You'll be up on there. You can also follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. So we have some breaking news today. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it if you've been on social media. Speaking of Facebook, dealing with Facebook, the Facebook Live killer who shot that guy, Steve Stevens, who shot Robert Goodwin for no reason, really.
74-year-old man.
74-year-old man apparently was a great guy. He was on his way home on Easter Sunday from a family dinner, and just the family's devastated, obviously. And there's so many things about this story that I've been reflecting on. I've been thinking about how it's a reflection of parts of our society. The whole angle of Facebook. A lot of people want to blame Facebook itself for this. And what happened to catch him? Because the breaking news is they did find him. They were on the pursuit to catch him, and then he ended up killing himself, as many of you probably know. And I'll talk about the whole... Well, actually, I have the news report here from Fox News that talks about how that situation went down. So I'll give you an update on the latest if you're just getting the breaking news with me as well. Also want to take your calls on what we're going to talk about with this, because there are some things that he said on his video. He gave a little manifesto on his video before he did it, why he was going to do it and all that are troubling, to say the least. And one reason they're troubling is because he's not the only one who thinks this way. And I'm not saying that everyone who thinks that way would do something like this, but there are some things he said that are problems with how many people think in our society. Now, I'm a little reluctant to say this is a societal problem because things like this happen. People snap. People go crazy. It's not new. It's been happening since the beginning of man. But it's still something I think we can talk about and learn from. And I also want to talk about how I think the lack of faith, the lack of God in our society doesn't help in situations like this. But let's get the latest on the breaking news. Go ahead and play cut 1 for me, Tom Benson.
Pennsylvania State Police are saying a concerned citizen spotted suspect Steve Stevens in a car in a parking lot in Erie and called them. State Police spokesman Major William Tepper is grateful for that call.
Thank God. Without the public, we would be nowhere.
Police chased down that car and gave it what they call the pit maneuver, tapping the car with one of their vehicles, forcing it to go sideways, and the driver lost control. When police got close to the car, Stevens reportedly killed himself with a handgun. Stevens' mother, Maggie Green, is telling Fox News her son had a gambling problem and just broke up with a girlfriend before allegedly shooting and killing Robert Goodwin, then posting a video of the murder on Facebook. Jill Nato, Fox News.
Okay, so when I think about this, there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news, I'll start with that, is that we live in a society where someone would want to do this. And he wanted to do it specifically so it would get attention and be seen by other people on social media. That's a big reason why he wanted to do this. He wanted the attention that he would get from it. I guarantee you that as he was on the run, he was out there looking on his smartphone probably, looking at different social media and seeing how people were reacting to what he did. There was some bit of wanting of fame there, which happens a lot of times in these situations. But the Facebook Live thing makes it more appealing, and social media makes it more appealing. And the reasons he did this are troubling. The good news is there are good citizens out there who saw him, who were aware, who recognized him, and who told the authorities about him. Not only that, but it's being reported that the McDonald's employees knew it was him, delayed giving him his food. He ordered fries and chicken McNuggets or something. Delayed giving him his food, said, "Oh, we're cooking your fries, it'll take a minute," so the police could get there in time. So that shows the good side of humanity. It's kind of interesting how that is. There's good sides and bad sides to this. But I want to go over a little bit of the video, and I had to bleep a lot of stuff out. He curses, so I was able to bleep it all out. I want to go through the video of when he talked before he did this. He was outside his girlfriend's work, Joy Lane, and talking about what he's about to do and why he's about to do it. And these are just the parts of it that concern me and show this is a real problem, not only for this person, but in our society as a whole. Some things he said that are very troubling. This is what he said.
Past year's been really up for me. You know, being with Joy, she drove me crazy, started making me gamble. I lost everything. I lost everything I had, man. I don't have I'm out of options. And now I'm just on some murder type. So what I'm going to do is, because she works here at Motor Taylor, this is over in 105, I'm going to try to kill as many people as I can over here. You know, so Murders Taylor and Lane. And it's up too because, you know, I never really been on no sucky like this. This is some sucky, you know, but we all human, man, you know, and I guess we all got breaking points. I went to my mother yesterday because I was trying to get some, you know, talk to my mother, but I guess it's the way I was raised. She didn't even give a man. I was telling my mother I was on some suicidal type I'm about to kill some people. Didn't care. I don't know something about me, but it don't matter. You know, people would come to me with their problems. You know, I'm a case manager at Beachbrook. You know, I would deal with people's problems every day. But when it comes to my nobody gives a It's like I'm always the bad guy. It don't matter what I do, people always make it out on me. And you know, the event that's about to happen within the next few minutes, you can blame it on her name is Joy Lane. It's all her fault. My mother too. Put her in there. Maggie Stevens or Maggie Green, she goes by. It's her fault too, because she the one who created this monster that I am.
So what does he talk about there? The first thing he talks about is he lost all his money in gambling. He had a gambling addiction. That desire for easy riches. Right there. That's a lot of us can get caught up in. So he does that. He has a gambling problem. He loses everything. That might have to do with his bad relationship with his mom and his fiance or his girlfriend at the time. And what does he do next? Well, he blames everyone else. You notice that? He blames his girlfriend. He blames his mother. He blames his people around him. Oh, they don't care about me. Nobody cares about me. I care about them, but they don't care about me. So it's their fault. It's everybody else's fault, but his own fault. The other thing I noticed is, you know, he said he went to his mom. He said he had problems. No mention of God at all. Or later he says, you know, he called it he was going to call it the Easter Massacre. It's the only religious reference at all. Easter Mass, just the name Easter. But he has no reference of God, no reference of faith, no reference of, not even a hatred towards God, not even an acknowledgement. You know, I hate God too. It wasn't even that. It was God wasn't even there. He couldn't go to God for help here. That's a problem as well. And it's troubling because I think there are a lot of people out there. Because what happened with him is he went after false gods, which I've talked about before. He went after the god of money. He went after the god of fame. When I say he went after the god of fame, he decided that the only way to get purpose in his life, the only way to get any meaning in his life, was to post a killing on Facebook and get a bunch of attention, thinking that would give him meaning and that would give him purpose. And he's like, oh, I get my breaking point. You know, we all have times of depression. We all have times where we think the world seems to be against us, or we wonder if we have any good friends out there. But what he did was even worse, because he went after another false god, which was fame. And then he would not take responsibility for anything. It's amazing that despite all his problems, he still had a car. He was able to afford a gun and use it. He still had a smartphone and was able to broadcast things on social media. He obviously had money for gas. He obviously had money for food if he went to McDonald's. He wasn't starving or homeless. He had a job. And yet none of that stuff was good enough for him. It's amazing how we can live in a society that gives us so much, and yet it's never good enough. And there's actually a lesson there as well. That chasing after these false gods of possessions, of fame, of attention, they aren't going to be good enough. And also not taking responsibility for your own faults, because we all have them, is another problem. This is why I get behind this microphone a lot, and I talk about faith, and I talk about God, and I talk about Christ and believing in Christ in our society. Because this is what can happen to a person who doesn't even think about going in that direction. Not only that, but the value of human life. He would have to have no value of human life at all to kill someone like that. Are we in a society where we don't value human life enough? Where there's no way we could do that? Well, the good news is there was a lot of outrage for what happened here. The good news is people, want to see change. The good news is good people stood up to get this guy caught. That's the good news. So we're not hopeless. But there's a lot of things that he did that go deeper than just the individual, I think. And it's extremely troubling. And I'm going to say to you right now that the answer is, once again, faith. Christ. I want to talk a little bit more about that. Talk about the messages we can get from this. How following merely the treasures of this world are not going to give you purpose. But you have to find deeper purpose. There's also an article here that I found on Fox News in the opinion section that I found very interesting from James Rogers, who says this. He says, footage posted to Facebook Sunday showing the horrific random killing of an elderly man is yet another example of how the social network has become a sort of modern-day Roman Colosseum for gruesome acts. Is that true? Is that where we're headed? Or is that a little extreme? So I want to talk about this next. And human beings are capable of being like that again. We were like that in the past. It was human beings that used to go to the Colosseums and watch them brutally kill each other and not have the value for their human lives. And we can go down that road again. And there's a reason why we stopped doing that in the past. And that is Christianity. And we'll talk about that more in the next segment. If you have any comments on this, if you're listening to the live show, you can call 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffe. We'll be right back.
You want to listen to Beyond Reason Radio live on your smartphone? Download the Beyond Reason Radio app now. Available in the Google Play or Apple App Stores. The voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason is back now.
And just so you know, I don't blame Facebook for this at all. There have been some that have been kind of going down that road that this is kind of Facebook's fault, that social media has created this world. And really, I just don't buy that. In some ways, social media has changed things. Well, in a lot of ways, it has changed things. There's no doubt. But really, when you think about it, for one, Facebook is just a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool to do certain things. You can use the tool for good or for bad, just like any tool, just like a gun. If we go down the road of we blaming Facebook for somebody doing something bad on there, you start going down the road of blaming the gun as well. Which actually I haven't seen as much about that this time, but I mean, who knows? And that'll probably come next, I'm sure. The call for gun control, and now we'll have calls for Facebook control, I guess. But I don't blame Facebook, because all Facebook really is a reflection of us. That's all it is. It's social media. It's merely putting out there what people are doing for everyone to see. And Facebook is very interesting because it's one of those things, once again, that shows how much good is in the world, because there is a lot of good that's on Facebook. But it also shows how much bad is in the world, and how much evil is in the world, and how much sin is in the world. And it's evident for all to see. And I was reading a story here on Fox News by James Rogers, and I'll read it again. I read it before the break, where he said, the footage posted on Facebook is yet another example of how the social network has become a sort of modern-day Roman Colosseum for gruesome acts. Later on, he talks with social media expert and president of JRM Communications, who told Fox News that for some people, there is a very real desire to share horrible acts with a large number of people via social media. There's clearly that level of I'm going to get as much recognition for this as possible, he said. It's a sign of the times. We are in a digital world. Now, I think it's a little extreme to say this is headed towards Roman Colosseum stuff, but it very well could be. Because when we take God out of society, that's what happens. I'm reading a book right now. Very good. I would recommend it to anyone. Called How Christianity Changed the World. It's by Alvin J. Schmidt. And it talks about what happened, in the Roman Empire and before that, how they dealt with human life and their value of human life, their value of charity, their value of a lot of things. And it talked about how Christianity and the ideas of Christianity spreading throughout the Roman Empire was instrumental in getting rid of things like the Colosseum. And it's very good and it's very true. Things that we take for granted in our society today have the roots in that Judeo-Christian ethic. And yet we have so many people in our society now who want to get rid of that Judeo-Christian ethic. Well, there's going to be effects of that in our world. And we see it. But going back to this Facebook Live killer, I talked about earlier how he was chasing the gods of money, thought money would give him happiness. He thought attention, fame would get him happiness. And of course, those things don't. And that's actually another thing that's taught in the Bible. Don't seek those things for purpose, because they never last. And they won't last. And it's fleeting in this life. I wanted to read some from Jesus in Matthew chapter 6, verse 19, where he talks about this. And I think it's a good point. That's a good lesson, because there are a lot of people out there that at times they feel like this guy. They feel like things are hopeless. They've lost everything. But he got his whole purpose off of how others felt about him, how much money he had, his social status, and all that. And when he lost it all, that his purpose was gone. And it's a good lesson of why we should not get purpose. from those things. Jesus said this in Matthew. He says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And I just wanted to point out, this is not, some people will read this, and they have read this in the past, and they become hermits, and they become monks, and vow of silence, vow of chastity, and all that stuff. It's obviously not what Jesus is saying. Jesus had friends who were wealthy. Joseph of Arimathea was a friend of his who was wealthy, who ended up giving the tomb for his burial. So it's not necessarily an attack on riches itself, but it's what he's saying is where your heart and your mindset and your purpose should be. It should not be solely on the things of this world. And he makes a good point, because the things of this world, they go away, they rust, they decay. Where he says, where moths and vermin destroy, where thieves break in and steal. The things of this world are so fleeting. You have it one day and can be gone the next. He continues on here. He says, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? He says, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And what he's talking about here, and money's another thing. Kind of like, I talk about Facebook as a tool. Money is just a tool, okay? It's a tool to purchase things. It's a tool of trade that works in our society. But it gets to the point where we praise and worship money, and money is our God, that if we don't have it, then our purpose is gone. And it's never going to be enough. This guy had enough money to survive. He had a job, but it was never enough. It's never enough, and it never will be enough. My mom always said, and my grandfather always said, you can't take money with you when you die, kind of thing. You can't. Store up treasures in heaven, because that will last forever. Good points here. And I also wanted to read real quick, before we go to break, from Philippians. Paul made some good points on all of this. From Philippians chapter 3. I know I've gotten preachy, but hey, I tell people I talk faith, culture, and politics on this show. Yes, the least controversial things to talk about: faith, culture, and politics. Yeah, yeah. We address the controversial things and stand up for the truth here. But this is what he said. So much of this is true. He says, "Further, my brothers and sisters, rejoice in the Lord. It is no trouble for me to write the same things to you again. It is a safeguard for you. Watch out for those dogs, those evildoers, those mutilators of the flesh. For it is we who are the circumcision, we who serve God by his Spirit, we who boast in Christ Jesus, and put no confidence in the flesh, though I myself have reasons for such confidence." He continues on, "If someone else thinks they have reasons to put confidence in the flesh, I have more. Circumcised on the 8th day, of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews in regard to the law, a Pharisee, as for zeal, persecuting the church, as for righteousness based on the law, faultless." He talks about all these things that he had in his life that should give him social standing, that should give him purpose. He had everything, is what he's saying. But he's saying don't put confidence in those things, because in the end they don't really matter. Because he continues on. This is Paul, the letter to the Philippians. He says, "Whatever were gains to me, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ. What is more, I consider everything a loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. I consider them garbage, that I may gain Christ and be found in him, not having a righteousness of my own that comes from the law, but that which is through faith in Christ, the righteousness that comes from God on the basis of faith. I want to know Christ, yes, to know the power of his resurrection and participation in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow attaining to the resurrection from the dead." He says, "Not that I have already obtained all this, or I have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me. Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. This was a guy who had everything. He had money. He had power. He had attention, fame. And he said, none of that's matter. It's all garbage in the end. Faith is what matters. It's a good lesson for us in this world. I wish the Facebook Live killer could have heard this message before he did what he did. Don't get caught up in the things of this world, I think, is what we can learn from this. It's a troubling world as well when we take faith out of it. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. I want to read a piece in the next segment by Mike Rowe, who he was on the Dirty Jobs fame and all that. He's just a guy who has so much common sense. And he had a great piece, and this kind of deals with our culture once again, and how to deal with things in our culture, and how we don't deal with things right, and how we don't take responsibility for things. He has an interesting little thing he wrote on the whole United situation that is very, very good. So I want to read some of it, and we'll get to that, and we'll take your calls and texts as well. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffe. We'll be right back.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes. This is Orlando's Smart Talk Radio. Beyond Reason Radio continues now.
So there's a guy by the name of Mike Rowe. First name's Mike, so he must be a man of common sense. First name's Mike, right? Anyone with the first name Mike? Okay, not necessarily. By the way, this is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Mike Yaffe. So there you go. We talked about the United thing a bunch last week and had a bunch of different takes on that, which is very interesting. I got a lot of flack, Tom Benson, in the morning show on this station, on WFLA.
For what?
Because I never defended United for their whole what they did, because I don't think they should have put the doctor in the situation he was in. But I did say that doctor should have reacted more civilly. When federal authorities tell you to get off from a plane, you get up.
And you worry about the
yes,
everything else afterwards.
You don't scream like a maniac and everything. It wasn't like they just rushed on and beat him.
Yeah.
A lot of people were upset at my take on that. They thought I was unsympathetic to his situation. There was no excuse for what they did to him. But you watch the whole video. They asked him nicely several times, you have to get up. And I get it. They probably shouldn't have put him in that situation. But he resisted, and he was screaming, and that's why he got hurt. And he doesn't have a right to fly a plane. And it's not like some were saying, this guy said, this is worse than what I saw in Vietnam, because he was in Vietnam versus Vietnam War. Like we're in some kind of police state now. No, you were going to be reimbursed for it and get a hotel stay and everything else. It's not a police state. You were asked nicely. It was a total random pick for him to do. So, I mean, come on. He acted like a maniac. And that was my point. Two things can be true at the same time is what I was saying. United can be wrong, but the guy can be wrong as well.
So are you saying his status as a doctor should have exempted him?
I mean, I don't know. No, I guess not.
Little class warfare there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he claimed it was racism and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is just stupid. But I found this thing from Mike Rowe who kind of makes the point that I made, but does it much more eloquently, I think. And because he talked about this. Mike Rowe's the guy from Dirty Jobs, hosted Dirty Jobs, been on social media a lot, has his own podcast apparently. He says this. Somebody asked him and said this. I assume you've seen the United video. Were you as disturbed as I was? How can a company treat their customers like that and remain in business? I know you fly all the time. What would you do if you were the CEO of United? So Mike Rowe responds and he says this. He says, like most people, I don't enjoy seeing passengers dragged down the aisle of a commercial airplane, limp and lifeless, nor do I enjoy seeing them hogtied at 37,000 feet, which he says he has seen on several occasions. He says these kinds of episodes are always disturbing, but what bothered me initially about this video was not just the violence. It was the obvious ease with which it could have been avoided. A little common sense and the freedom to apply it could have resolved the situation in a dozen different ways. So he doesn't leave United off the hook here. But Micro continues. He says this. He says, last night, however, I watched a tape of United CEO Oscar Munoz as he attempted to walk back some earlier comments. He told ABC News that the passenger in question, David Dow, did nothing wrong. So the United CEO ended up saying. Mike Rose says in response to that here, says, now I'm no longer disturbed, Donna. I'm merely terrified. Is Oscar serious? God, I hope not. I hope he's just doing the typical over-apology thing CEOs do when their crisis experts tell them they've got to say whatever it takes to win back the public trust. I hope he's just reacting to some lawyer who told him before the interview, for the love of God, don't blame the victim. Well, Oscar certainly didn't blame the victim. But in the process of finding him blameless, he suggested that millions of passengers are under no obligation to follow a direct command from United employees. And that's a hell of a lot more disturbing than a beatdown in the main cabin. I think he's making an excellent point here. He continues on. He says, here's the thing. It's easy to forget that we have no right to fly. Buying a ticket doesn't change that. So when we board the plane, we have no right to remain there. We can be legally removed if we're too drunk, too loud, too creepy, too suspicious, or too big for the seat. We can be removed if we stink. We can be removed if we're insubordinate. We can be removed for whatever reason the airline deems necessary. He says, obviously, airlines don't like to remind us of such things because it makes them sound mean. So they bury the truth in the fine print, yada, yada, yada. He says this, but the facts are clear. If you want to travel by air, you must agree to do what you're told. If you don't, you subject yourself to fine, arrest, constraint, forcible removal, and or permanent ban from the friendly skies. It's all there in the fine print. He says, personally, I support this policy. I support it because I don't want to fly across the country in a steel tube filled with people who get to decide which rules they will follow and which they will ignore. I've been on too many flights with too many angry people to worry about the specific circumstances of their outrage or the details of why they took it upon themselves to ignore a direct command. A plane is not a democracy, and the main cabin is no place to organize a sit-in. The main cabin is a place to follow orders. Mike Rowe, I'm starting to think this guy should run for office or something. Makes a lot of sense here. I have to start listening to his podcast. He says, moving forward, what matters most to me is a heightened respect for the rules and a heightened respect for the people who enforce them. Obviously, the policies that led to this particular fiasco need to change, but the greatest enemy we face in the friendly skies is not bad service, it's anarchy. And I have no interest in flying with anyone who doesn't follow orders. Do you? Does anyone? He continues on here and says, let me say again, United made a business decision that was unbelievably, incomprehensibly stupid, and now they're paying for it. Point is, this is how the market's supposed to work. The stock is down hundreds of dollars, and he continues on saying how the market will correct this mistake from United. But he says here, continue on with Micro, he says, does that mean he deserved a beating? Of course not. But it doesn't mean he's innocent. Like the airline, Dr. Dow had options. He had recourse. He could have deplaned and pled his case to the gate agent, but he didn't. He chose resistance. That was dumb. United chose confrontation. That was dumber. Now here we are, dumb and dumber. Good point. He says, as for your question, Donna, if I were Oscar Munoz, I'd take a page from Charlotte McCourt, the 11-year-old Girl Scout who became famous on this page for telling the truth about how Girl Scout cookies actually tasted and then wound up selling more Girl Scout cookies than anyone else in the world. First, I'd stop apologizing for the way in which the passengers was removed and start apologizing for being cheap and short-sighted. Then, I'd apologize for valuing rules more than common sense. Then, if United still insists on overbooking future flights, I'd publicly empower my employees to offer any amount of money to entice people off an oversold plane, whatever it takes, no cap, no limit. He says, but through it all, I'd make damn sure the world understood that passengers on my airline still need to follow orders given by my people, even if they think those orders are stupid or unfair, and for that, I would make no apology whatsoever. He says, finally, let me say to many friends on the front line of the airline industry, flight attendants, pilots, gate agents, and those of you behind the counter, I appreciate what you do sincerely and understand how difficult things are right now. Your jobs have been increasingly thankless over the years, even as they become more critical. Thanks for all your work. I could not agree with him more, and it's basically what I've been saying, and I read a piece from Matt Walsh last week kind of saying similar things. His point is this. At some point, we have to respect authority. I understand we can get upset at authority and we can get upset at situations, but when we become a society that doesn't respect when an aviation official tells you to do something calmly, or doesn't respect when a cop tells you to do something calmly, or doesn't respect any type of authority, this is a problem, is it not? I think it's a big problem. And I understand that there comes to a point in some societies where you have to have civil disobedience in some situations. And when I say that civil disobedience, Martin Luther King way, that's civil, nonviolent. I understand that there's some times when some societies are police states and you have to rise up against that. But that was not present in this situation. That is not present in these situations in our country. It's just not. This guy wasn't going to be sent to jail. He wasn't being persecuted. He wasn't being thrown out and flogged or something. He was asked merely to exit the plane calmly, and he would be reimbursed and all of that, and eventually get another flight. That's not police state stuff here. So in that situation, it's up to someone to act like a civil adult, act calmly, and do the right thing. Is it not? Am I too harsh here? I don't know. I think he's right on the money on this. 407-916-5400. Text to 23680 if you're listening to the live show. Make sure if you're listening to the podcast, share the podcast with your friends. You can get the show anywhere podcasts are available, including iTunes and iHeartRadio. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffe. We'll be right back.
Download the iHeartRadio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast. The conscience in your ear telling you the difference between right and wrong. Yaffe is back on the air.
So this is a show you're going to want to stay with me even through the next hour. We're doing this, if you're listening to the live show, we're doing it till 9 p.m., special 2-hour show. And Tom Benson, I'm bringing something back at the end of the next hour.
Oh, yeah?
Something
What?
exciting.
Oh, good.
The Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update.
Oh, good.
I haven't done that in a while. He was kind of silent on Twitter for a while.
He's not as active as he has been. He's a busy man. You know, he's got things to do.
Well, I would hope so. He's the president. But he's actually been kind of active this week and saying some things. So we're going to get back to that. I know. I think he did it just for this show and just for me.
He was stuck in the White House all weekend. That's why he's active on Twitter.
Exactly. That's probably. Well, he's been active though in Mar-a-Lago too. Yeah. So we'll say that. All right. So, and I'm also bringing something back right now that I haven't done in a while, and that's a couple of stories that I found that are so beyond reason they've left me flabbergasted. There are some stories that have definitely left me a little flabbergasted. So I had to bring that back as well. And the first story I'm going to get to here that should leave you a little flabbergasted as well is a story from Sky News. And I actually, thanks to our friends at the Daily Wire for pointing this out to me. But two-time Olympic medalist and prospective Conservative Party politician in Australia, Sky News, James Cracknell, made an interesting comment about obesity and child obesity. They were having a conversation about how to combat child obesity and stuff. And he talks about which countries have the best handle on child obesity. This is what he said.
And the only way you can do it is either murder about it from the outside and not try and do anything, or get about and do it from the inside. And it is... if you think of the two countries in the world that have got a handle on obesity, what do you think they are? Which two countries?
Do you know what? I'm stumped there. I don't know.
North Korea and Cuba.
Right.
See, they're quite controlling on behavioural change. So, there is a place. It will have to be worked, and you have to get people to buy into it. And the reality is that.
Yeah, but people are starving in North Korea, aren't they? They're not. They're not obese because they haven't got any food.
They're obese because, exactly. But there are sanctions and everything else. But the example is it's behavioural change.
Well, first of all, they don't buy into it. They're forced into it. Come on.
Exactly right. By the way, I said he was out of Australia. He's out of the UK, not Australia. But he said there, the only two countries who have, quote unquote, a handle on obesity are North Korea and Cuba. Gee, why? Now the reporter at the end was exactly right. Why do you think that is? Well, that's because they're starving to death. They don't have access to food because they're communist countries.
In North Korea, the fat man is hoarding all the food.
Exactly right. That's an example of, we always complain about child obesity and obesity. Obesity is one of the best problems for a society to have because it shows that we are so rich that we have too much food. And we have too much technology, so we don't have to exercise. We're so affluent that we have that problem. So if a country has that problem, it actually shows how good that country is in a lot of ways. And he's pointing it out. Oh, it's Cuba and North Korea. It's just so beyond reason. It's just crazy talk there. So another story here I have, Tom Benson, that you'll find interesting. That's also beyond reason. Also has to do with North Korea, believe it or not. And some comparisons. There's people out there who want to praise North Korea, I guess, or compare us to North Korea, which is just foolishness. But George Takei, the guy from Star Trek?
Sure.
He tweeted out this recently. He said, understand that the rest of the world puts both Kim Jong-un and Donald J. Trump into the same unbalanced nuclear-armed state leader basket.
Oh,
really? So he said that Trump,
birds of a feather,
is like Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
Really? Kim Jong-un is a complete and total dictator that forces his people to praise him as God and starves his people, controls the media, and threatens all the other countries.
There is only one thing the two have in common.
What's that?
They both have weird hairstyles.
Well, this is true, but I don't think that was George Takei's take.
No.
That was not his take, but this is true. It's so absurd. It's interesting looking at some of the other tweets about him. One person tweeted in response to George Takei, "You are deeply mentally unbalanced. You need psychological help." All right. It's just, another person says, the irony of people tweeting this garbage is completely lost on them, huh?
I think that's an example of people who have too much time on their hands. They think of this stuff.
Well, not only that, but that's true. He probably does have a lot of time in his hands. But it's just an example how beyond reason our politics is in some cases. They bought into this perception of Donald Trump that is obviously not true. And he's out there tweeting. If you tweeted something like that about the North Korea leader in North Korea, which they don't even have Twitter accounts there, so I guess you wouldn't be able to do it. But just the fact, if you did something like that, you'd be shot and killed. You'd be thrown into a gulag. And yet he makes this comparison. It's no comparison. It's beyond reason, and it's completely ridiculous. Oh, man. So if you missed any of the show at this hour, make sure to catch the podcast of the show anywhere podcasts are available. I also posted the video on Facebook Live, and just like Beyond Reason Radio on Facebook, or send me a friend request. In the next hour, Chelsea Clinton blames Hillary Clinton's loss on sexism. Oh, okay. Talk about someone not taking responsibility for anything. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yeffy. We'll be right back.
Well, I found some kind of conviction.
It's tax day. Everyone excited? Paid your federal income tax? I'm sure this is one of your favorite days of the year. I mean, I see a lot of things on Facebook and Twitter saying taxation is theft, but no, it's your patriotic duty to pay your taxes. Aren't we all so excited about that? I actually talked about it on the morning show. And by the way, this is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffe, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. I also co-host and produce Good Morning Orlando here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. And I talked about on the morning show how more people in my generation, in the Yaffe generation, are trustful of the IRS.
Oh, trustful?
Believe it or not, 53% are okay with the IRS.
Look, with my $2,000 that I had to pay in, I'm glad
yes,
that I could buy a wrench for one of the armed services. Because that's probably about all it could do.
Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, and I basically told him that the main reason is because my generation isn't making any money, so we don't really have to pay yet with the taxes. But
well, if you look at it, the IRS is really a mechanism for redistribution of wealth.
Of course it is. It's exactly what it is, and that's actually a great point that I want to talk about. This is why I'm becoming more and more of a fan of the fair tax. I've always been a fan of a flat tax. Everyone should pay the same percentage. And basically, I mean, it works in the church. 10% and works in religious institution. Why not here? That seems to be the fairest way to do it.
Not everyone.
Not
everyone tithes, though. That's the problem there.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's a voluntary thing. But you know what I mean. Yeah. I think that's the fair. But the problem, I almost think the fair tax is the best way to get around this whole idea of class warfare. Because there's so much complaints about class warfare on people on the left. The rich don't pay their fair share. And it's the rich's fault of all the problems in this country. And the rich, because people are rich, that makes people poor. People are poor because people are rich and all this stuff. And in terms of and they think the rich should pay more and more and more so they can fund more government programs that quote unquote help the poor. Do they really help the poor as much as the private sector? No, of course not. In fact, I have a great article I'm going to get to in a second that talks about how Walmart has done more for the poor than the government ever did, which is actually a great point. But the fair tax seems to be a way to get around that because it's all based, fair tax is a national sales tax. It's all based on your spending.
What is it, like 31% or?
I don't remember. It's different depending on who you ask. Depending on the proposal, it's different. Mm-hmm. But basically, you would get rid of the income tax and have a national sales tax. So you would pay the amount of taxes based on what you spend. So the poor who wouldn't be able to buy, who don't buy as much, they'll still pay that percentage of taxes depending on what they buy. The rich who buy a lot of stuff will have no choice but to pay more taxes. And it gets rid of that whole class warfare argument, which I think is a dumb argument anyways. So many people have made the point. I'll never forget when I first read the Communist Manifesto. Out of not because I'm a believer, but out of curiosity, obviously. And one of the main steps in the Communist Manifesto to bring us towards communism is a progressive income tax. It's right there. So the whole idea of a progressive income tax, it's the whole point, is to take from the rich and give to the poor. And the best way around that is just pay what you spend. Not only that, but if you pay what you spend, it would force a lot of people who don't pay taxes, who get away with not paying taxes, of paying it. It would be unavoidable. Drug dealers, all those things, they would have to pay taxes because they would spend money in different areas. The problem I usually see with the fair tax is what would happen is the government, and they already do this, the government would tax some items more than others, try to control what you spend your money on. They already do this with cigarettes and stuff like that, sin taxes, but I feel like they would do that more and more in a fair tax system. Plus, it would be incredibly difficult to pass. And so that's why I lean more toward the flat tax. But every day I get more and more in favor of a fair tax. What I would really like is what we did at the beginning of this country, where we get rid of the income tax and the sales tax, and we tax just imports and tariffs. I've been against tariffs and the border adjustment tax only because they want to put that on top of our taxes already, our income taxes already. Mm-hmm. But if that was our only source of revenue, I wouldn't be as against it, to be honest. if we got rid of the income tax completely and only tax tariffs and cigarettes and stuff like that, I wouldn't be as against it. So that would be the ideal.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to happen.
No.
Not in my lifetime. But another thing that's very interesting, I just got this from the dailysignal.com, which talks about a study released by Gallup this week. And it goes back to this whole class warfare thing on taxes that we've been talking about. It says, well, for one, it says more and more people, kind of like what I talked about earlier, think that they are paying their fair share. So they think the tax system as a whole is unfair. So they think the tax system as a whole is unfair. But when asked about what they personally pay, most of them think it's okay. Probably because most of the people who respond don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
The people who make a lot of money are the ones who have to pay. Most of them say it's fair, but 61% told Gallup that they think it's fair. But when asked about, the whole system at large, most people thought it was unfair. Now, what was the reason? What was the two main reasons they think it's unfair? First reason is some corporations don't pay their fair share. Second reason, some wealthy people don't pay their fair share. Once again, now 60% said that. It's silly. I don't like this argument. For one, we have the highest corporate tax income rate in the world. Okay? So to say the corporations are not paying their fair share, the only corporations that are not paying their fair share, it's not because of the tax code. It's because they're in bed with the federal government and they get all these special subsidies from the federal government. Tesla is another one. Tesla, they are the most valuable, they have the biggest market value of any car company out there. Yet they still get all these tax subsidies because they're an electric car company. So that would be another way to get the fair taxes. It would get rid of all of that kind of stuff. But when you look at the numbers, it shows that whole argument that the rich are not paying their fair share is silly. It's beyond reason, and it's stupid, and it's always used by politicians on the left to create more government programs. It's so much easier to blame. We talked about this in the first hour, not taking responsibility, to blame the problems in society. So blame the problems of the poor. So much easier to blame the rich for that and say, well, it's their fault, and we're going to take some of their money and give it to you. Divide and conquer thing, to actually create a system that helps everybody. But when you looked at 2011, they did a breakdown of where all the taxes went. The top 10% of income earners paid 68% of all federal income taxes in 2011. 10% of the population paid 68% of all federal income tax.
Not enough, what Bernie Sanders would say.
Yeah, and not only that, but they would say, well, that's because they have all the money.
Yeah.
Well, those people in the top 10% only earned 45% of all income.
Oh.
So they earn 45% of all income. They're 10% of the population, or 10% of the income earners, and yet they paid 68% of all the taxes. But then when you look at the bottom 50% of people, of income earners, they paid 3% of income taxes, but earned 12% of income. How is that fair? Yet we're constantly told once again that the rich aren't paying their fair share. I watched a documentary this week on Warren Buffett, and he was big. The Buffett rule. The rich are not paying. The rich should pay more. And I always say, Buffett, write him a check.
Yeah.
They'll take it. I guarantee you the federal government will take your money, Warren Buffett. But when you look at numbers like this, and they want to increase the tax codes for the rich, it's not, it's not affecting those really rich ones who make it all on capital gains and all that stuff. Every time they change the tax code and charge more for the rich, it affects the small business owner who files their income and as the business as their income and all that stuff. But when you look at the numbers, it just doesn't make sense to blame the rich. And yet that's what we're doing. And that's why I have become more of a proponent of the fair tax.
I heard a story yesterday on another one of our shows on this station where this man in Orlando owns has a business, 4 locations. One of those locations pays nothing but his taxes for the entire year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, think about that. And, you know, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I posted an article on Facebook today that talked about, the New York Times had a great article today talking about how we are entering a tipping point in terms of retail jobs. More and more companies are going online and more retail places are going out of business. Okay? And they think it's coming to a tipping point where more and more retail jobs are going to be lost. And the reason why I bring that up is because, well, people are going to say, well, we need more government programs, we need basic income, we need tax the rich more. In an environment like that, that's highly competitive, where retail places are trying to stay open, shouldn't we make it easier to do business in this country, not harder? And yet that's what we continue to want to do. Stuff like that is why it's important we have to simplify the tax code, because we have to make it easier to do business. Because the good news about things going online on Amazon and you have to buy less in retail stores is that the price of consumer goods are going to go down considerably because you don't have a lot of the same costs. You don't have a lot of the same overhead. So people are going to be able to afford more things that make their lives better. But they're going to have to find jobs in different ways. One way they could do it is by creating more businesses. They could create businesses online and get the goods from some of these other online retailers because it will be cheaper for them to do that. Yet we continue to want to make it harder to do business. If we simplify the tax code and make it as easy as possible to start your own business, that would be a way to help the future of this economy and get rid of the regulations. But that's never the solution, is it? Technology could fix a lot of these problems if we get the government out of the way. You know, the internet is where most of the growth, a lot of these big companies that have come out in the last 2 decades, Google, Amazon, Tesla, Elon Musk became rich from PayPal. It came from the internet. Well, the internet's not highly regulated, so it works. But there's other industries that are so highly regulated that we've killed their business. And if we went the opposite, it will work better. And yet we have people like Governor Cuomo in New York who wants to do the opposite. They want to create more government programs, and the government will come in and fix your problems. Well, all that stuff costs money, and all that stuff interferes with the marketplace, and all that stuff brings new rules and new regulation, and all that stuff kills businesses. You think we would make it easier to do business in this country? So I'm starting to get more for a flat tax. We have to simplify the tax code. If we don't do a fair tax, we got to do something like that. I think it's vitally important. It's going to be up to Donald Trump, by the way, to get some of this stuff done. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. I have a great article on this whole topic talking about Walmart and how Walmart has done more for the poor, arguably, than the government. And I think it makes a great point. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffe. We'll be right back.
The place where we talk faith, culture, and politics. Beyond Reason Radio continue.
So it looks like we've been talking about tax day and how the tax code is just beyond reason. And I have a call I'm going to take here in a second, but I found some stats that are very interesting on this. How much money is spent usually every year for people to figure out how to do their taxes in our country?
I'd guess 150.
Well, you're talking about per person. I'm talking about as a country as a whole. Okay. How much money is spent in the entire economy for people trying to figure out how to do their taxes? According to the Tax Foundation, it's only $409 billion. $409 billion for people. Now, the National Taxpayers Union says it's $262 billion, but the Tax Foundation says it's $409 billion, basically to push paper. That's money that's being spent on our economy basically to push paper. That's crazy. They say the average amount of time it has taken for people to fill out, the IRS instructions for filling out the 1040 form include a box near the back that estimates how much time it takes to fill that one form out. This year, it's 15 hours for a 1040 form. That's a 67% increase from 1988. This year, the instruction booklet runs 241 pages. In 1988, it was fewer than 80. Oh my gosh, it's crazy town. That is craziness. Well, it's beyond reason is what it is. All right, let's take a call here. Dan in Orlando. Dan, what's your take on all this?
Man, I tell you, back in 2012, Herman Cain put this little plan out called the 999 plan, and I still wish we could go to that.
I got to tell you, I am not a fan of that plan. I like the idea of limiting our taxes, but the reason why I'm not a fan of that plan, and it's better than what we have, but it creates another avenue to tax us. So what the 999 plan was, is it was a national sales tax and a national income tax of 9%, and then I believe, what was the third 9? Was it corporate income tax? Yeah. So I like that, but what it does is you add another avenue for the government to take your money. So while Herman Cain would be president under 999, it would be great. But then a Democrat president comes in, and now he has two different ways to tax you, and that's where it would be kind of a problem, in my opinion. But it's definitely better than what we have.
Now, can I go back to a previous topic that you're on, the United?
Oh, United. We were talking about. I read that thing by Mike Rowe in the first hour about United and their and how they were wrong, but also I believe the doctor handled it wrong as well. Go ahead.
Now, I would think as a corporation, if you're getting to that second step where you're volunteering people or mandatorily making them get off, wouldn't you put in your stipulation saying, if you do not get off in this second step, we're going to charge you double for your ticket? Wouldn't that be enticing to people to get off the plane?
Oh, you mean so they would charge double when they have to get back on, or how does that work?
No. When you get to that second step where we're going to mandatorily pick 5 seats, 5 volunteers to get off the plane, we're asking you to get off the plane, but the airline says if you do not, we will charge you double for your ticket.
Interesting. That would be a very interesting way. I don't know how you would. I think you'd still have the same problem. How would you charge them again? You would have to take their credit cards, I guess. I don't know. That's it.
Well, most of the time you already have the credit card.
That's true. I guess if they had the credit card, I don't know. That would probably very interesting take, Dan. I appreciate your call. Thanks for listening so much. I don't know. There's a lot of bad PR when you go down that road, I think. But yeah, he talked about Herman Cain's 999 plan. It was very popular. I mean, I liked Herman Cain. He got a lot of flack, but the only thing I did not like about that plan is it added a third avenue for the government to tax you. So it added a national sales tax without getting rid of the national income tax. Now, they're both really low, but that's for now.
And it wouldn't preempt the local sales tax or the state sales taxes.
Well, that's true. But, I mean, the fair tax wouldn't do that either, but it would get rid of the national income tax, so It would just replace it. Where that, I mean, it's one of those plans that, yes, the plan itself is good, but you have to remember that eventually a Democrat's going to get in power, or eventually a big government guy is going to get in power, and they're going to want to change it, and it'll be easier for them to do it because the avenues will be there. So they'll raise both, and then we're in even a worse problem. It's kind of a big picture thing. When you look at just that plan, you're like, oh, it's great. But when you look at the big picture of it, you're like, oh, not so much. So speaking of class warfare and all that stuff, it seems like one of the biggest targets of the left is Walmart. And a lot of times I don't understand why. Now, usually when you talk about Walmart, the reason why they don't like Walmart is because they feel they don't pay their employees enough. But really what it is they don't like that it's successful, that they've been incredibly successful, that they've beaten out a lot of the competition, and that they have made a ton of money off of it. This was an article I found from the cityjournal.org, and it's from John Tierney, who says, for-profit anti-poverty. No institution or agency has done more to help the poor than Walmart. It's very interesting. He says Walmart's benefits are obvious to shoppers and to economists like Jason Furman, who served in the Clinton administration, was the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors under President Obama. In a paper, Walmart, a progressive success story, he says Furman cited estimates that Walmart, by driving down prices, saved the typical American family more than $2,300 annually. That was about the same amount that a family on food stamps then received from the federal government. Very interesting. And this was a progressive who said that. Continues on the article here. He says, how could any progressive with a conscience oppose an organization that confers such benefits? How could de Blasio and the city council effectively take money out of the pockets of the poorest families in New York? Because New York's trying to block Walmart from being built there, New York City. Because though they would deny it, they care a lot more about pleasing powerful labor interests, especially the United Food and Commercial Workers, which helped lead the long fight to keep Walmart out of the 5 boroughs. Very interesting. One person said, he continues on here, he says, some argue that Walmart exerts downward pressure on retail wages, but even if that's true and it's debatable, the effect is tiny compared with the savings at the cash register. According to Furman, Walmart lowered American retail workers' pay by less than $5 billion while saving shoppers more than $250 billion on food, clothing, and household staples. Anti-Walmart agitators complain about the government subsidies that some of the company's workers receive for health insurance, which they argue burden taxpayers. But these are the same Medicaid subsidies available to low-income workers at other stores and in other industries, not just Walmart, or in any kind of employment, including public schools and other government jobs. It makes 0 sense to single out Walmart employees, as the state of Maryland did with a law eventually struck down in the court, forcing Walmart alone to forego government subsidies and shoulder these costs by itself. And he makes the point that's great that Walmart has lowered prices so much that lower income people in this country, which existed before Walmart. Walmart has not created more lower income people. They existed. In fact, Walmart has given a lot of low skilled people a chance to have a job. But it's created a situation where those lower income people are able to afford to live a better quality of life. And yet there's always an attack by the left in Walmart. And I posted this on my Facebook, Tom Benson. And of course, I have a liberal who commented, and you know why she hates Walmart? Because Bill Walton, I don't think he's alive anymore, but the Walton family makes so much money, and yet their employees are paid so little. It's that same argument. It's because Walmart makes a lot of money, and the family makes a lot of money, that, we should be against them. Even though the government makes a lot of money and gives out few benefits as well and screws things up. But I just hate that argument because, for one, that money is spent in other places and investment and all that stuff. But you're not going to be able to take what they make is so minimal compared to what it would take for them to raise wages for everyone. And they are raising wages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you have to look at, it's just a misunderstanding of the economy as a whole. Because if you just raise wages on low skilled work like that, it creates an effect that raises the prices of goods, which really hurts those employees because they can't afford the goods anymore. And eventually the profit margins are so low that they end up having to lay off workers. It's just not how a free economy works. But because someone got rich off of this, that the left hates that. You can't profit off of this. Even though it's a win-win situation, Walmart employs tons of people. Mm-hmm. Walmart creates a lot of jobs because they offer goods at a low price that can be used for other businesses, and they have helped poor people in this country live a lot better than ever thought possible before. And they're a for-profit company. That's how the free market works. Now, I do want to make a note that I know in some situation Walmart does get local tax benefits to build there and all that stuff, and I'm totally against that kind of stuff. But as a whole, the attack on Walmart is just beyond reason, in my opinion. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. Chelsea Clinton talked about in a new magazine, an article. Sexism. Yeah, that's why Hillary Clinton lost. Of course. Yeah, just Beyond Reason. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffe. We'll be right back.
Your safe space for conservative thought, not for political correctness. Yaffe is back right now.
This is another edition of your voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. It's Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffe. We will be on tomorrow night as well, 8 to 10 p.m. If you're listening to the live show on News Radio 102.5 WFLA, you can catch the podcast anytime, anywhere podcasts are available. Just download the Beyond Reason Radio app in the Google Play or Apple App Store. Make sure to like us on Facebook at Beyond Reason Radio, or follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. You can also send me a friend request on Facebook. Just search Michael Yaffe. So very many ways to get in touch with the show, to listen to the show, and of course to share with your friends. So, guess who's going to be on the cover of Variety magazine coming up soon?
Variety.
Yes.
It's got to be Megyn Kelly.
No, that would be someone who maybe actually earned a spot.
Oh, I see. Oh, I know. Chelsea Clinton.
Yes,
she's getting
Chelsea Clinton.
Some kind of lifetime achievement award.
Is she really?
I didn't
think
see
so. That on here.
Yeah.
For what?
For being Chelsea Clinton.
What did she achieve?
Exactly, at age 36.
What? Huh?
Yeah.
What is she? I mean, I'm sure she's a nice. I don't know. I don't know what she's like. Maybe she's a nice person.
She's not a nice person.
Is she not? I don't know.
No. I've read a number of stories about a lot of workers at the Clinton Foundation in Arkansas.
Really?
Did not like her and quit when she was running things. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if what has she been successful at? She did that thing on NBC for a while, which was a failure.
And she made $600,000 for 3 or 4 reports.
She's successful at using her last name to get ahead. So there you go. But why? That's so crazy. And it's crazy that she's on the cover here. What? The left, why can't they just let the Clinton machine die? Why? Why do we have to bring back this machine somehow? I don't get it. The Democrat Party, advice to you, don't just be done with the Clintons, okay? It's over. It's over. All right. But in this Variety magazine article, there was a question here she was asked. And of course the question is stupid as itself. So the Variety is dumb for asking this question, and Chelsea's dumb for buying into the question. But in the article it says this: as someone who traveled across the country campaigning, were you surprised at the sexism that still exists? So dumb. Sexism is not why she lost, people. Trust me. A very articulate, likable woman could have beat Donald Trump, okay?
You could make the argument also that sexism got her all those votes.
Why, sexism against Trump and against men?
Well, no, for her. As for her.
Yeah, that's true. Well, her whole campaign was vote for me, I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Break the glass ceiling. So you talk about, focusing solely on sex and gender over accomplishments. Come on. But this is what Chelsea Clinton's response was. I'm not surprised. I'm deeply saddened. I think it's important for us to realize we can't take progress for granted. Progress has to be continually defended as well as advanced. I think about this multiple times a day. Oh, whatever. Shut up. You don't think about it multiple times a day. In 2017, and we're fighting again on the fights that were settled a few years ago around gay rights, women's reproductive health, abortion, just say abortion. Fights to ensure we're a country that's always moving toward a more perfect union and not moving towards disunion, disunity, and segregation. Oh, dear God. It's just basically those who didn't vote for my mom are sexist and racist and bigoted. That's basically what she's saying. She says, we're really in peril of moving backward. That's not what I want for my children and their generation.
Move.
Yeah, we're in peril of moving backwards if we vote another Clinton in. But it's the same stuff. Sexism. Oh, sexism had nothing to do with it. Trust me on this. It was all you, Hillary Clinton. She was asked another question here. She says, given the current political climate, what do you see as your responsibilities? I think it's a question all of us should be asking ourselves every day. I think being a citizen isn't just what happens when there's an election. For me, I'm deeply committed to the work of the foundation. Oh, the Clinton Foundation. Yada, yada, yada. We know the majority of our country doesn't support what's happening. We need to make it clear that we're not the silent majority. Oh, wow. Interesting. Let's see here. I don't want to read any more of this. There's nothing good here.
Well, you bring up a good point. There's a new book out by two reporters. It's called Shattered, and it examines what went wrong with her campaign.
Yep.
And they come up with some interesting premises and some ideas and some information. But you know what? I don't want to go back and read all that again. You know? It's over. Goodbye. You know?
Oh, people are still going to you know how many people want to make money off of this, of that whole campaign season? I was actually reading about some of that. USA Today had an article on the whole thing, and they said the 3 things to learn from that new book. So number 1, Bernie wondered, is there a place for me? Bernie Sanders, the independent Vermont senator, made a strong push against Clinton. It's no secret that he wasn't a fan of Clinton's policy stances or her ties to big banks. And that's how he eventually landed in a meeting with Obama aide Alyssa Mastromonaco. Says, I'm not sure about this. A lot of people have told me I should run. You should only do it if your heart's in it, she replied, and you shouldn't do it as an issue candidate. I don't know. Silliness. Why? So we're going to go for the communist now? Another person said the other thing to learn from the book is the server drama. The mess of Clinton's use of personal email server during her time as Secretary of State was one of her own making, but she did not want to admit it. Hillary instead turned her fury on her consultants and campaign aides, blaming them for a failure to focus the media on her platform, the book reads. In her ear the whole time, spurring her on to cast blame on others and never admit to anything, was her husband. Neither Clinton could accept the simple fact that Hillary had hamstrung her own campaign and dealt with the most serious blow to her own presidential aspirations. So she didn't want to take responsibility. Shocker. Another thing was on the night of the election, President Obama spoke with Clinton and told her that she needed to concede. Once she made that call to Donald Trump, the president called, Hillary wasn't ready to speak with him because she recognized that, as the book notes, she had let him down. She had let herself down. She had let her party down. And she had let her country down. She said, Mr. President, I'm sorry. No, I think you did the right thing there, losing Clinton. I'm all for that.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
See, I know you're like trying to be like, say that's kind of like Clinton, but I think that voice is not shrill enough for that to be a Clinton voice. I don't know if that works there. The reason why Clinton lost is because she was a terrible candidate. She did let the party down. She ran. She didn't campaign right. She thought it was a lock.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, she basically ran on the idea that she was a woman. And that voting for Trump would be voting against women. And that's just not going to work. You have to run based on ideas. And she didn't want to do that. So speaking of presidential politics, we have a Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update coming up in the next segment. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffe. We will be right back.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime. Your voice of truth in a world of fake news. Beyond Reason Radio continues right now.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffe, voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. I actually had a bunch of texts coming in. I forgot to check the text line earlier on the tax thing. Some people, when we were talking about taxes earlier and what's the best plan, one person said, why would I have to pay more just because I make more? Everyone else uses the roads and everyone uses the schools. Why do the people hope to have to pay more, get the same incentives? Okay, makes sense. Another person says, I believe in the fair tax because the only way to have a free, fair way. Sometimes I read these texts and I'm like, get your grammar out. You type it, read it before you send it to me. I have this problem in the morning show where I almost have to translate like what people are saying on the text line before I read it.
Plus, in our system, we have to read it backwards.
Yeah, that's true, because it does kind of like go up like that. I have to pause it because it will keep updating. Yeah. Okay, says, I believe in a fair tax because the only way to have a fair way is the fair tax. If we have to pay by a percentage, the people that make more still pay more, and that's not fair. We don't get more things from the government. We get less. That's a good point. You know, when you think about it, the rich pay more, and yet they get less from the government. You know, I hadn't really thought about that recently. Interesting. Another person said, Ben Carson made a good point. Flat tax is the way. And so 1 point for the fair tax, 1 point for the flat tax. Another person said, calling to me, Thomas Sowell copycat. I'll take that as a compliment, thank you. Thomas Sowell is a genius economist. So if you want to compare me to him, I'm totally okay with that. All right. That was the Beyond Reason text line update. But it is now time for the Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update.
I'm a tweet with a bird in a deodorant cage. Tweet is my name, but I don't know my age. I don't have to worry, and that is that. I'm safe in here from that old putty cat.
All right, so I'm actually going to go back a couple of days here. Trump, for a while, I hadn't done this segment because Trump wasn't really all that active on Twitter. He was calming down. Well, eventually that was going to go away and Trump was going to be all over Twitter again. You knew it was going to happen, and of course we would have to talk about it. So I'm going through here. I'm going to go back to April 16th. In this tweet, which got a lot of controversy out there, Trump said this, April 16th, why would I call China a currency manipulator when they are working with us on the North Korean problem? We will see what happens. That is a very weird thing to put out in a tweet. I'm not going to lie. He just put out basically, I'm negotiating with them. I'm making a deal, which is what I said on the show. I mean, that's what I knew was happening. But I mean, if they're a currency manipulator, you should just say they're a currency manipulator. I don't care what they're doing. If they're doing wrong, they're doing wrong. Now, Trump later did say, well, they're not manipulating their currency anymore, so I'm okay. Oh, okay then. It's all better now. But I figured that was the reason why he was going down that road. I think everyone thought that. The next tweet was Happy Easter to everyone. That was a good tweet. Next tweet said, I did what was an almost impossible thing to do for a Republican, easily won the Electoral College. Now tax returns are brought up again? He talked about protests over the weekends where they were protesting him to release his tax returns. Like, I know it is kind of like an old issue. Like, come on, people, get over it. Then he said again, someone should look into who paid for the small organized rallies yesterday. The election is over. Oh, he created some controversy up there. Okay. Next one, he says, our military is building and is rapidly becoming stronger than ever before. Frankly, we have no choice. Okay, good. A lot of the military people like that. Let's see here. I'm going to skip up here a little bit. He said this on April 17th. Of course, he saw this on Fox and Friends. It's like his favorite show. He gets up and watches Fox and Friends every day, I think. Some people don't like that he gets a lot of his, he watches a lot of these news shows. In a way, I think it's a good thing because it actually kind of keeps him in touch with what's going on, with what the people are thinking about and talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's a visual guy also,
Yeah. I mean, he should not get all of his intelligence from Fox News. I'm not saying that. But, by watching it, you kind of see what people are thinking about and talking about and addressing. And it kind of keeps him in touch with them, I think.
I read where the people who supply his daily intelligence report were asked to include more photos. And they included photos of the sarin gas situation in Syria. And that's what spurred him into action, yeah.
That's interesting. He's a visual learner. Very interesting. The next thing he said this after watching Fox and Friends. He says, quoting Fox and Friends, the first 90 days of my presidency has exposed the total failure of the last 8 years of foreign policy. So true, he said. All right. Then this tweet got so much controversy, and I actually think it's hilarious. I think it's great. He says, a great book for your reading enjoyment. Reasons to Vote for Democrats by Michael J. Knowles. You know what that book is, Tom Menson?
No, I don't.
It's a book that's empty. It contains absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Yes. It's done by Michael J. Knowles, who works for the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's website. And Ben Shapiro has an endorsement on it. On the thing, he said, thorough as his response. So he tweeted that out, and everyone got so upset he said that. Then he said, the fake media has gotten even worse since the election. Every story is badly slanted. We have to hold them to the truth. And then he basically tweets like 10 different things about this guy who's running in Georgia. What's his name? John Ossoff.
Yeah.
Who's apparently some charismatic young guy in Georgia running.
He doesn't even live in the district that he's running.
Yeah, Trump tweeted that. That was like one of his latest tweets. He said, just learned that John Ossoff, who is running for Congress in Georgia, doesn't even live in the district. Republicans, get out and vote. I don't know anything about this guy. I would love to hear maybe some of his things. I mean, I could debate him if you want. I'll bring him on this show. See what he's got to say. Wow, is that it? The show's over? The Trump Twitter update is done?
The fat lady's warming up. You're done. Your history.
Oh, man, 2 hours went by fast. All right, if you missed any of the show, make sure to check out the podcast anywhere podcasts are available, or you can see the video on Facebook Live as well. And I appreciate y'all joining me. For those on Facebook Live, yes, I know my face is red. I got a little sunburned. I'm just waiting for the comments on that. Because I put it on 5 times when I was at the beach over the weekend, and I still got sunburned. Just annoying. All right. I will be on tomorrow night at 8 to 10 p.m. right here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. So join me then, and I'll catch you guys next time.